that's when Clay stepped in and got in between them, and he stabbed him in the chest and then stabbed his friend. And I found myself in between recesses and stuff. I got a chance to hug this guy's family and love on this family that I didn't know.
When my buddy Kenny Thomas reached out to me about Casey Beathard, he said, Jeff, you got to hear this guy's story. And then he explained about a dad who gets up and walks across the courtroom and hugs the family of the guy who murdered his son. And I'm going to just tell you right now, you will be blown away as you hear from Casey Beathard today on Unbeatable.
These stories of triumph over adversity will help you handle your toughest days in life. You're listening to Unbeatable with Jeff Struker.
Casey, it is great to be with you today. Man, you are amazing, and I want you to know that you have a fan because I found out about you through a mutual friend of ours, my buddy Kenny Thomas.
Yeah, it's crazy how these things work. I appreciate it. I don't know Kenny Thomas other than through social media and things like that. And he through a friend that I get on I do just a Zoom call. We do just a group of guys every Wednesday morning, and a friend of Kenny's. So his name is Billy Montana, and he just said, "Man, can I put you two together?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah." So this is awesome.
Well, just so you know, Kenny thinks you're cool, and anybody who Kenny thinks is cool, I think is cool. So I think you're cool too, man.
Well, I think Kenny's cool.
Yeah. Hey, so how about if we talk about football, faith, and just finding your own rhythm today? Sound good?
That's awesome. Awesome.
For people that don't recognize the Beathard last name, they probably come from another part of the world, or maybe they just have had their head buried in the sand, because that last name is known pretty well in the football community. Can you describe a little bit about your family's football legacy? Well, not just legacy, but the chapters that your family's still writing.
Yes. Yeah. I just, I grew up in, I grew up find out as you grow up that your Uncle Pete, my dad's brother, played football at Southern Cal, USC. And, he was a MVP in a Rose Bowl, and they beat Wisconsin way, way back in the day. And he was a first-round draft pick. And then I realized my dad was a scout as I was growing up. He just scouted for several different teams, starting with the Chiefs and then the Falcons and then Dolphins. He started moving up the ladder.
All right.
Yeah. And so I got to, it was awesome. So we, as kids, got to grow up on these fields just barefoot and just running around football fields and playing in locker rooms, and the literal epitome of gym rats is that. And had no idea how lucky we had it,
You look like you're the kind of guy that could still throw a football pretty well today if you needed to, if somebody was looking for a backup.
Well, I think I have to, because I got grandkids. There's so many of us, and it's our family is so competitive. It never stops. I mean, we go to the beach or we go to the park. I don't care if we're sitting in an airport. If there's something to roll up and make a ball out of, we're going to be throwing it and playing some kind of game.
You're the kids that are going to crash into stuff in the airport, waiting for the flight to take off. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yep, that's that. My wife was always like, if we go anywhere, especially go to the store, one of my boys is going to go to a ball aisle first and grab one, so that when we're in the store, we could play catch the whole time. And she's like, do you really have to do that all the time? Yeah, we do. It's fun. Yeah. So I try to be able to stay in shape where I can play with them.
Yeah. Tell your wife it's in the male gender DNA that if you see a ball, you forget everything else and just focus on that ball for a few minutes.
That's right.
Hey, I showed this to you a second ago, but for everybody else who's watching this, if you're driving right now, you can't see the t-shirt that I'm wearing. But for those of you who are watching this episode on social media, check out the t-shirt that I'm wearing. Can you see it?
Yep.
It
American
is
Leeds Farmers.
That's right. It is a homage. It's a shout out to one of the toughest college football players I think I've ever seen in a generation. who just happens to have the same last name. And I watched your son play football at the University of Iowa for a few years. So let's talk about CJ and the amazing ball player that he is.
Yeah, I'm just so proud of him, and I'm just so grateful that he ended up there. He was committed to go to for over a year to go to Ole Miss, and that was like a dream school for him. And then, some coaching changes happened and changed, and then late in the game, his high school coach goes, "Hey, can I send his video to a friend of mine, because maybe with this coaching change, maybe you don't need to go Ole Miss." And CJ was like, "No, I'm going to Ole Miss." And I said, "What about let's just take this one visit?" They asked us to come up in a cold day in like December, and we went up there, and he was like, "Man, that is cold." And I was thankful that it wasn't too bad. I was like, "No, it's not that cold," because I was like, because I've watched the Hawkeyes for a lot of years, but I really didn't know where Iowa was. I mean, the whole state.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where any of that stuff. We went up there, and just that program, honestly, the people and the coach, the way they do it and the way they run things and they grow things like a family, and just the atmosphere, I was sold. And then I'm just proud that he just came around and was like, "Dad, I'll go there. I'm going to step out and I'm going to go there."
Yeah.
And it were the best. He will say that it was the best 5 years of his life, being there and doing that. And he overcame a lot of things, being a backup and just working and trusting the system. That's how they do it.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was good.
Well, like I said, I watched him and I saw him lead on the field, but I also watched him take his bumps and his bruises. And man, he was as tough as any college quarterback I think I've seen in a generation.
Yeah.
And he's I know you're proud of him, but you can let the folks that are not aware know what he's doing right now.
Yeah, he is. He's always been that way. And I'm grateful about that with all of my kids. For some reason, you're just not going to get them out. You're not going to get them out of a game, and sometimes to their detriment, man. Get out. No, because I know what could happen if if I give this spot up to somebody, I might not get it back. So I'm going back in. But anyway, so yeah, he got drafted in the third round by the 49ers, and he spent 4 years there, finding his way as a quarterback in the NFL. And now he's on his second year in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to spend a little time with him recently there. And he's just, competing, he really likes it. He likes everything about it. They just signed Sheriff over there. So he's excited about that. Brandon's there. And so they got at least a couple Hawkeyes there with them. I think Mekhi Sargent's there, and so that's awesome.
Yeah. Tell everybody about the rest of the family. We're not just going to talk about CJ. We want to talk about the rest of the family too. So describe the rest of the family for us, will you?
I've got 5 kids. I've got CJ did that. My second son Tucker was always he just kind of introverted, incredible athlete, but didn't get as big or tall, but great baseball player, and was recruited by several schools and got a scholarship to go to Middle Tennessee State University.
All right.
To play baseball, but he was battling with that and the music deal. And I tried to make him go to college just so he'd grow up and learn a lot of things. But then I got a chance to watch him play and sing in certain venues and things. And I knew it was a gift. And so I let him make a decision. Well, he tore his shoulder in football the year before he was going. So in the healing of that, it was an opportunity to reflect and decide. And he ended up he's in the music business, making more music right now. And he tours around and he's really gifted and talented. And so I'm very proud of what he's doing and just becoming a real writer and, growing through a lot of things that have gone on in that business. This business could be hard.
Oh, yeah.
So And so I know it. And so but he's learning. He's becoming, you go in at 19 and now he's finally 26. Now he has something to write about.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
He's
You got some
been
bumps
beaten
and
up.
bruises to write about now, right?
Yeah. And then of course, this my third son went to heaven 2 Christmases ago when he came home. Probably one of the better athletes we had. Just a great kid, just a hero. Just had everything going for him. But and actually spent some time over at Western Iowa, junior college. He left a scholarship school here in Tennessee at Tennessee Martin, and wanted to go back to the drawing board and try to get recruited at a bigger school and stuff like that. And had an opportunity to maybe go to Iowa, but he wanted to make his own way. And so he ended up at some small school in Long Island, New York, Long Island University, a FCS school, and played a year there and you talk about tough. He got beat up like nobody I've ever seen. In fact, he just got one shoulder surgery on it and was waiting on the second shoulder to get surgery when what happened. And then he went to heaven. And of course, I've got a daughter, Charlie, that is just graduated from school and just, trying to find her way. Yeah. She's an incredible musician and praise and worship songwriter and singer. And nice. And then we had the big surprise, the 11-year-old. So I'm wow. I gotta try to stay young and figure out that and start all over.
That's what I was going to say. That'll keep you young right there. Yeah.
Someone told me the other day, I thought this was the best thing I've heard in a while. I said, yeah. And then, this is my daughter. And I've got 2 granddaughters too. So, the guy looked at my little daughter and goes, "Oh, so you re-enlisted?" And I said, "Yeah."
That's a good phrase. So. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the move to Nashville. What was the decision to bring your family to Nashville way back in the day?
Yeah, I was, man, it was always in my, it's crazy. I think it was a gift given to me way back in the day. My mother was very musical, piano driven, and just singer. And her side of the family revolved around getting together and singing and playing. But my dad, of course, his side was very just more athletic stuff and doing it. We did both, but I gravitated towards the music a lot, so my mom and I would always sing together and play records together and play on the piano. And that was our interest together. But the others in my family, they just stayed, athletics driven, and they did that stuff. And my older brothers ended up just taking the football route of playing through college. I played in college and got out, but I was also playing music and writing songs in college. And it's crazy because, I just knew it was there and the passion was always there, but what do you do with it? I was like, because it's a scary thing. I didn't have anybody in the family going, well, you go to Nashville and you just try to wait it out and chase it down. I didn't know. I didn't know. I just went back to, my dad was with the Redskins now they're not the Redskins.
The Washington football team.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's just call them Redskins.
That's right. So at the time I got out of college and went back up to Northern Virginia, back to where I was raised, and just got a job. And that night I found these bars that you can go playing and sing with the band in these country bars. And then I started playing my own songs, and some guy in the back of a bar one night was like, "Man, you're all right, pretty good. You ought to go to Nashville." And I was like, "Go to Nashville? Is that where it all goes?" And I was into country music, all those songs and singers, but I didn't really understand the whole songwriting part, so I was like, okay. And then I didn't know it at the time, but I think it was, I know now is just being stirred by God just to go, go. But I didn't, and I was just, I got to go. I got to get out of here. And my rent was up on this place I
Yeah.
was in about 6 months. And I said, when I'm done with that, I'm leaving. And I wasn't married. I wasn't tied to anything. So I just picked up my truck and loaded up my truck and drove down. And that was it. I just took a chance. I literally, it was like a country song. I had biggest thing I had was a TV and some other junk.
Yeah.
And I put it in my truck and drove down. And I first time I'd ever been to Nashville.
I hope that somebody who's listening to this episode right now is thinking about what you just said. Look, you come from a huge football family, and it would have been really natural, really easy for you to just fall into those footsteps and follow your uncle and your dad in the football business. So the fact that you were willing to throw the TV and the clothes in the back of the truck and drive to Nashville is a big deal. And I really think somebody's probably listening right now thinking, man, I've got this goal that I would love to chase, but it's scary because I've got a whole lot of things going for me right now. Why would I leave the things that I've got going for me to go chase this dream of mine? What would you say to that person who's right where you used to be, but they're freaking out about the idea of chasing that dream?
Yeah, that's one of the things I've learned in this whole journey is that in raising my kids to know that I really pay attention now to when they were growing up, to their passions, to what I was trying to recognize. My wife and I always could just see and recognize their gifts and just encourage them in that way and support them in those ways, because that truly is, some of these things are your destiny. And it is, and I realize that the comfortable things to do are not always the right things to do,
Wow.
And so
I hope people just heard that. Say that one more time, because I hope people heard that.
The comfortable things to do are not always the right things to do. Just because they're comfortable, I know that from, just recently from a lot of things in it's a biblical thing, it's just that, you got to step out in faith to find out. You got to trust God, or, where you're going in life, so those things in you going, what am I doing? I want to do this, or I want to take this step, or are we good together, whether it's a spouse or whatever, girlfriends and things like that, or career, should I do it? And it's not always about the money or whatever, but what is your gift? What are you doing? And go for it.
Yeah.
Because if it really doesn't feel like work when it's doing something you love, and I think that's and I was the first one in our family to literally go to have that feeling of, because I remember my brothers and my dad going, whoa, you're doing what?
Yeah, they're like, are you insane? What's wrong with you?
And they were like, well, my dad was like, I don't know how I can help you. I wish you wouldn't know, because I can't help you. And I'm like, it's okay. I could start at the bottom and figure it out.
Yeah. And
it literally was just coming here and, what do you do? I don't know. I got an apartment. I had a little money saved up, got an apartment. And I looked in the paper, that's what you used to do before phones.
That's
and all
right.
Stuff. And
100 years ago.
Way back. And I found some open mic nights, and I waited in line and got a chance to go play a song here and there. Next thing you know, someone goes, hey, do you need a job? Yeah, I need a job. Here, I got a college degree. And you got to be willing to go try it out. And I went back to minimum wage, couple jobs a day, just so I could support this habit of writing songs when I wanted to and singing at night.
Yeah.
Until somebody would go, man, I'd like to pay you to sing a demo if your voice is good, or I'd like to pay you to write songs,
Yeah. Casey, let's just be honest, man. Your family is dripping with talent. Your father and your father's side of the family, all that athletic ability. Your mother's side of the family, all of that musical talent.
Yeah.
But I want to just camp on this for a second, because I really believe there are lots of people that are listening to this episode right now, and they're in this dead-end job. They're just doing it because they need the paycheck. And I totally get that. But in the back of their mind, they have this dream and they want to chase that dream, but it's scary. And not only is it scary, but chasing that dream may mean stepping away from your family's history, may mean kind of leaving everything that's familiar to you And I wanna encourage people. So Casey, I do this high five segment, which is just us bouncing some thoughts back and forth off of each other for a minute.
Okay.
And what I want to do for just a second is I want to talk about why you should go ahead and march to the beat of a different drummer. You don't have to follow in your family's footsteps if you really strongly feel that you're being called to do something different. Now, there's nothing wrong with following in the family footsteps. But
Right.
if you have this deep desire to go do something different and you're freaking out about it a little bit, let's talk about why it may be a good thing to go follow your own drummer and march to your own rhythm, or find your own rhythm, as I said at the beginning of this episode. So can we just bounce some things off each other for a second?
Sure.
All right. So here's one of my first thoughts on this one. Hey, you never know how things are going to go until you try it. So don't be the guy or the gal that gets to the end of your life and says, I wonder, or I wish I would have. Just go give it a shot. That alone may be motivation enough for you to go chase that dream. You got any thoughts or any advice here?
Because you want to find out what you never know. You know, you're going to live with the rest of your life wondering, I wish I would have. And we cannot be fear driven. You know, we need to be, find just the freedom. There's nothing like freedom of trusting that step out of going. I just finished a song, and in the chorus it says, drive the wheels off all the wonder.
All right.
And chase the lightning, ride the lightning, chase the thunder. Yeah. And these things, like, but go for it, man, because like I did, if you're worried about who's going to provide or whatever, man, you'll be okay. You just, making ends meet is really not that hard.
That's right.
It depends on what you really need and what you want. You can get by on what you need. We took on more roommates when it was getting hard. We just took on more roommates.
All right.
We had an extra room. We took on this. We did it. We ate certain things.
Yeah.
We did certain things, and we made it work. And so
I totally agree. Hey, the second reason that I would tell you, this is in my high five on why you should march to a different drummer if you really have this passion to go do something different, is nothing great ever came by just following in the footsteps of the person in front of you. Nothing wrong with following in the family business or the family trade. But if you feel strongly about going and blazing your own trail, that's where great things can happen. And for me, one of my pieces of advice to you listening right now is, if you feel that strongly, man, go do it, because great things can happen when you blaze that totally new trail.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any more fulfillment in doing, stepping out in faith and going for it, and watching things start to materialize and watching them start to come true, because it just doesn't feel like work when you're doing what you love. So go for it, or you're going to be working the rest of your life.
Yeah. And don't forget, you're going to fall on your face a couple of times when you step out on your
Absolutely.
own, but it's okay. Fall on your face, get up, dust yourself off. That's why we have a podcast called Unbeatable for you.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Okay.
I will say this.
Yeah,
too.
Go for it.
And just know it in your heart of hearts that's my thing. And it's not just your mom going, you're great.
Yeah.
You should go.
You should go do this. Yeah.
Pray about it, know about it, and just, but, and what's the worst can happen? What's the worst thing can happen? You just go back, go back to what your other option or whatever. But I believe in all out, just going, taking the steps and going for it.
Totally agree. Swing the bat, throw the ball, do your best, and give it a shot and see what happens. And if it works out, awesome. And if it doesn't, you gave it a shot.
That's right.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because the next thing on my list was to say, hey, don't necessarily allow your parents to dictate your future, right? No two people are exactly alike. So maybe there's some similarities between a son and his dad, or a daughter and her mother, but that doesn't mean you have to follow in their footsteps. Go march to your own drummer, go do your own thing, and honor the family tradition and, the family legacy at the same time. But nothing wrong with going out there and marching to your own beat. Yes,
exactly. I think if That's right. I think it seems like we always think like it is, but I've lived long enough to know that just money and stuff is not the answer.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's never. I realize that now. There's such a fulfillment that we need to fill, and it's not in those things. It's if you don't go for. I mean, you could fall into the family business, but it's you've got to trust what's in there to go. You got to do that, or I don't think we're going to be fulfilled.
Casey, here's another great one, and you're the awesome example of this. You may have some family history and some talent in an area, but that doesn't mean that that's who you're cut out to be. And trying to be what somebody else really wants you to be can get miserable pretty quickly. So just go be you, go do you, become the best you that you possibly can be. And don't worry about what everybody else wants you to be. Go be the person that you feel deep inside you're supposed to be.
You're right. That's exactly right. And but be honest with what is that inside telling you?
Yeah.
And press into it. I believe in that wholeheartedly anymore, that it's just a relationship with the Lord has taught me that.
Right.
In the a lot more is that I just trust what he gives me inside to go do and chase. And I look back on my life before I even knew it, man, that was him all the time.
Yeah.
And that was him doing these things and urging me, encouraging me to go do this. And he did not let me down.
Right.
He never did.
Yeah.
And
same with me, man. I stepped out a time or two. It was really scary. I didn't even know if I was making the right decisions. And then when I look back years later, it all made sense, but it didn't make sense when I was doing it at the time. Which brings up the last point for me, man. All of those beautiful, original things that ever happened in life, all of the inventions, all of the great masterpieces, all of those amazing, original, works of art, they all came from a guy or a gal who was willing to go blaze a new trail. And if you're sitting there listening to this episode and you really feel it deep inside, but you're not sure if you've got the courage to do it, well, if you really want to do something original, something epic that people will look back on, you got to be willing to step out from the crowd and blaze a trail, right?
That's absolutely 100% true, I think. And it's the same goes today in the battle of, even in songwriting, there's a lot of people that go, man, I can do that. But, and say in the music business, like in my business, where every day, if somebody's already doing it, if that's their thing, and that would be easy for you to do. But I mean, is it a gift that do you have something else to offer in that realm? Do you write a different song? Give them something different. Right. Can you add to that situation? Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
And there's always somebody that goes, I know all the songs sound like this, but I got this song. And you know what? And just see what happens with it. Go with it. Don't listen to, I have so many people calling all the time. Hey, what do you think? Should I move to Nashville? Should I, whatever, I think you should be, what should I write? And what are the ways and how do you do it? Man, what is it? Go with what you feel you need to write. And I have to come to that meeting place all the time. Every year, it seems like I run into a wall of chasing things, and it just never works.
Yeah.
Chasing what everybody's doing just never works. Right. Unless it's something that the thing that I need to do needs to happen.
Right.
I think about that all the time. Look, you do what I called you to do.
Yeah.
And go for it. Trust me, trust that.
Casey, you could have followed in the family legacy and been a very successful in football, but you stepped away, followed your own drummer, and started to make music. And I want you to know, man, you're making great music. You know what I was listening to on the way to the studio for this episode?
What's that?
I was listening to We the People. You guys knocked that single out of the park. Man, you're making some amazing music.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Thank you.
So you took the risk, you moved to Nashville, you kind of started a new life for yourself.
Yeah.
And now I want to fast forward for very briefly so that we can talk about Christmas time 2019, and your son Clayton is in Nashville and he's trying to do the right thing, and then something unimaginable happens. I'm just going to stop talking now and clear some time for you to kind of explain the circumstances and explain what happened.
Yeah, that was it's probably a worst case scenario in a parent's life. You don't like getting phone calls late at night or anything. We've had several of them. Just most of the time, hey, I'm staying here. I'm not coming home. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And our kids are always good about, letting us know where they are. They're, for the most part, just really good kids. We were, when I moved to Nashville, this is a big part of this whole thing. I'll preface all this by saying, when I moved here, I didn't know who or what was guiding me in anything I was doing. I had some moral standards and all these things, but my wife had a religious background, and then had and was what they called saved as a Christian. And, but we were living our lives, and then something just, an old crazy college friend of mine came back through town who had his life turned upside down, and I just noticed something. He noticed something different in him, and I knew I needed something else in my life, and I got saved. I met Jesus way back in about when I was 25, and I decided to try to follow him, and I kind of raised my kids that way, my family that way, and we found the right church and found the right, and it just supplemented everything. But it was a different walk. I had a lot of good things going for us and the family on the outside. I had enough free time to coach my kids.
Yeah.
And the walking relationship, I think, with God, but maybe not. I think I believed him, but I didn't know him, and I think I believed in him well, but I didn't believe him or know him well enough to know that things in your life, what goes on in your life, and things that happen. But my kids grew up that way, and they all. Clay was one of those guys that he was a man just who had his own. You talk about marching to the beat of his own drummer. He was always very responsible, accountable kid that was going to get out of the shadow of his bigger brothers and go do his own thing. And he was a great football player, a Mr. Football of Tennessee player. Wow. He did more things in high school than either of his brothers. Had so much. Just good looking kid. Had all that stuff going, everything. And but he had a different thing about it. He just had he knew who he was, and he knew who.
All right.
He knew whose he was, and he knew who he was.
All right.
And he walked like that, in that confident, never beating anybody over the head with it, but he always wanted to do what was right and the good thing to do, the right thing to do. And he would fight for the right thing to do. And that was just always in him. And it was he came home for Christmas on the 19th of December. I got up that next morning. I got up actually that night when he came home, and which I don't do. I go to bed early, and it's kind of crazy how things work. And he was supposed to get home at a certain time, and his best friend in the world, and my little daughter Tatum's best friend in the world, was him. So Tatum and I are laying in bed. We go to bed, and man, Daddy, he's supposed to be home. Yeah, I know. And they took forever to get home, and they got home real late. But the reason they took forever is because there was a mess up on the interstate. Yeah. So they had to go off the road. They had to go take a different detour, and they ended up riding around. He was like, Mom, where are we? she was like, yeah, I'm going to take the back. And this is where he grew up. Yeah, but I'm in Hillsborough. Man, I used to live down there.
Yeah.
What, you used to live there? So at 10 at night, she goes, yeah. So she takes him on a tour of where she grew up in her old house.
Mm-hmm.
She fills him in on all of her, because that's what he's interested in. He's interested in people. And it was just like, wow, that's a rare time to have just had a detour. And now you get to relive and show him your old life of how you grew up and share that with him. And then you get home late where I should be asleep. And she goes, Tatum gets up in the middle of the night and goes, they're home, Dad. Can I go down? And the dog's freaking out, his dog that we still have here. And yeah, go on downstairs. And she runs downstairs and I'm just in bed. And I'm like, he knows that I'll see him in the morning. That's how it always goes from all my kids. I don't get up. I'm laying there and I just hear in my heart, just get up, go downstairs and hug your kid, hug your boy. It's like, I'm tired. I don't know. And I get up and I go downstairs and I'm start walking down the stairs and Clay looks up at me. He goes, Pops. That's what he said. It's called me. What are you doing up? And I said, I don't know. I just had to come hug you. And those things are, I look back on those things and that I'm just like, man, that's just not coincidence. These things happen. And and so that next morning I get up and he's already at a rehab place getting his shoulder, because he just had surgery on his right shoulder, and he's getting therapy at 5 a.m, whatever. He gets up and then he comes home and his old baseball coach wants to go meet me for lunch or something. And I go, would you want to go, Clayton? He's like, yeah. I don't know. He's just being home he got up early and he's come back from college. He just I didn't think he would want to go, but he did. He met me. Just everything he wanted to do turned into like just one of the best days I'd ever had with him in those 24 hours, right up till it's time to go out. And one of his friends called, hey guys, hey buddy, a lot of friends from the high school are meeting together and just over at my house. He's like, Dad, should I go over there? And I was like, man, it's up to you, bud. Yeah, go for it. If they're all, and he goes, yeah, all right, I'm not going to stay long, but I'm going to go. And he walked out the door. And right before he walked out, he came in and he goes, Dad, I just got a text from one of my offensive tackles. And he goes, this guy's coach, he goes, the player said, Clay, I just was watching some film from last year, sitting here. And he goes, and I just want to tell you what a leader you are. Wow. You are the toughest guy I've ever been around. And thank you for being that leader. And I looked at him and I said, yeah. I said, you're not telling me anything I didn't know. And he goes, no, I just said, I don't know, Dad. It's just weird. I go, you are, bud. You are that guy. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, all right. I just thought I'd share that with you. And he goes, well, I'm going to be back in a little bit. I said, all right, love you. See you. And I just want to say that that's what, for me, last day on earth looks like, is that it looks like any other day. And then we got the dreaded call in the middle of the night. It was CJ. He was in I think they were in Seattle before in a hotel the night before a game. Mm-hmm. It was a Saturday night and nobody had our phone number. So his friends called him, woke him up in a hotel, and he called us and said, and I heard her on the phone rang. And I was like, and I heard him go, hey, Mom, yeah, so something. And I heard, she put it on speaker. She was like, what? And they said, yeah, Clay got stabbed or something. What? And I got up and stabbed, and it didn't seem like anything. But so they need you to go down to Vanderbilt, the hospital. And I was like,
and for people serious? That don't live in Nashville, it's a big deal and really serious if he's getting sent to that hospital.
Yeah. And I was like, what? So is it that serious? Are they dead? They just said that you need to come down there. And so we just got up, everybody. I called other boy, Tucker, and he came to the house, and we were all happened to be in town. We were all around, and it just another, not a coincidence, but just thankfully everybody was there. And with Tucker being on the road all the time, he was home and he came to the house first, and we just rode down there. And yeah, it's you wait there, and it just didn't feel right. This was not just some thing. And now I look back now, and the social worker just wouldn't level with us, wouldn't tell us anything. Long story short, we're just sitting out there, and the social worker says, "Hey, the doctor's going to come down, and can you, they want to talk to you in a private place." Well, and she pointed at this room over there, and it was the chapel room. And I already saw that.
Yeah,
place.
you already know. Yeah.
I said, I'm not going in there. They go, she goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because I know what that's about." She goes, "Oh, no. That's just a quiet place." And sure enough, they come in, and it's just the most surreal, devastating thing you could ever imagine hearing. And it's still,
yeah,
it's unbelievable. So then I had to call CJ, because he's just waiting on pins and needles, and he had already talked to his coaches. They came back in. It's 3 a.m. wherever he is, and it's 6 here now, and he was trying to find it. It just was devastating, and I just remember walking back in the house, and his one of his best friends was also gone. He got killed also at the same time. And I just remember walking back in the house, and you just go, okay, now what? I mean, it's just it's really an empty, surreal thing. And when the news starts getting out and people start sending you things, they send you scripture, and they send you encouragement. They send you stuff, and it really, and you're really looking for answers. And you go, okay, now I got to, and you're looking at the stuff. And I just remember in the nights immediately following, reading some of the scripture and some of these things, and I was like, okay, he is close to those who mourn. Mourn. He is the comforter. He is the whatever. In rejoice in these things, and I'm like, I don't feel that. Where is this? I need it. Staring out a window, I need this. And the house started filling up. Another miraculous thing, we have a gate out front. I live on a farm way off the road, so we have a gate to keep people from coming up, and it's just, but the gate broke. The gate had broke about 4 days before, and or maybe a week before, and it had never broken. So I just pulled out the plugs and the mechanical parts of it all, and I just left it open before. And Susan was like, "You got to get that thing. I don't like that gate open because we're too far off the road," and blah, blah, blah. I go, "I can't get the guy to come out here. It's Christmas time. It's coming up on Christmas."
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, all these people start showing up at our house and dropping off stuff and just loving us.
Yeah.
And being there. And I know now, looking back, that if that gate wasn't broken, we would have kept them out. We would have been alone, and we would have said, "Leave us alone." But thank God that these people, and especially my pastor, who showed up immediately, who had just 10 years before lost his own son as he was going to college. So he steered us in the right direction of all this scripture that just talks about the hope. It talks about the hope of heaven and the truth about what happens in life. And what we are truly living for, and then I got to say that we were on such a mission to find out, to feel better and to figure out, what do we do now? What now, and who to blame and what to do. And every answer came from the Bible, and he accounted for every single answer and every promise and everything. And I was just blown away at who God really is, and who Jesus really is, and what he did. And we started seeking the answers. And our house, it was like supernaturally, that's not who we were. Yeah, we loved God, but there were certain things in my life I was in control of, I thought I was in control of, and wanted to be in control of. And a lot of those were my children.
Yeah.
I'll give you a lot of things, God, but not them. I can handle them. And sending them scripture and worrying about them all the time. But he's like, I find out, and he goes, look, I am their father. You are our steward. And you don't have to worry about them. I love them more than you. And yeah, but why does this happen? How does this happen?
Yeah.
Because this is not all there is.
Right.
Our lives are like vapors. And just trust me. And he goes, this is not and there was a part in just game changer in 2 Corinthians 5 where I was reading. And now you're seeking. Now you got to understand, I'm not a Bible thumper crazy guy, just working on my relationship with Jesus, trying to figure out how to be fulfilled in the world, because I chased it all.
Right.
I've made money. I've had hits. I've been on stages. I've had these things. And I'm like, still was kind of empty. And then I come to this place in my life where the Lord allowed, I literally came to a spot where I was like so worried about my kids all the time. I'm sorry, these people.
No worries, man.
But I came to a place in my life where I was eating up like, oh, how are you doing at school, CJ, or Clay or Tucker? Where are you? How are you doing this? Did you study did you pray? Are you even doing this? Is that why you're not starting? Is this why this is happening? And it was all workspace and all this stuff, and I couldn't relax. And I finally got to this point in my life where all I could do was just, as a family, we sat around no TVs, no social media, none of that. All we did was just wanted answers. And my pastor, who his son went to heaven, in 2 Corinthians 5, Paul talks about these tents that we're living in, and the battle between to live is for Christ, but to die is for gain. But in the 2 Corinthians, he says, when these mortal tents that we're in go and they just fall, we get swallowed up by life. And I was like, I'm swallowed up by life. Look at this.
Yeah.
It says. He goes, yeah, that's absolutely true. It's like we go from the dead to the life. I mean, we're just in these tents, in this flesh, and it's that we're trying to satisfy in this world with all these things, the stuff, the more money, the better car, the bigger house. And I'm like, no wonder it never was fulfilled, because I wasn't just trusting him and just learning to, just knowing that the whole goal is just to try to get more people to heaven. And he's not concerned about, I had people calling me going, another quote that I heard is like, death is of no consequence to those found in the Lord. It just means nothing.
Yeah.
We miss them. I miss him. And that'll always be my thorn. That's, so, and that's okay. But I know he is at peace, found a peace that he's never been in before, never found before. It's just unexplainable. And then all of a sudden the house started. I can't even explain the peace that fell over us. And then of course it says it in the Bible that, this peace that transcends all understanding. We were feeling this because we were just staying in the Word and finding out what he says about every situation you can possibly imagine in life is answered in that book. And we'd never come to a spot where we had to and wanted to just believe him rather than just believe in him.
Yeah.
So we started. But anyways, I say all that to say that I know it's hard to understand, and it sounds like the thing to say, but because I know.
Yeah.
And I was standing there going, okay, now what? What are we supposed to do now? And what are you going to do with this?
Yeah.
And he's just like, please just trust me and chase me and follow me and seek. And we did, because I had no other alternative. And of course, I have alcoholism in my family.
Uh-huh.
I have all these things in my family. So that was an option, but I didn't go there. I'll just go drink, or I'll just go to this place, or go, and I'm just grateful for some reason that's where we went. Our house turned into a church. Our gate was broken. We couldn't keep the people out.
Yeah.
One of my really good friends in the music business, a guy named Granger Smith. He's a singer. Uh-huh. And it was probably 6 or 8 months before that he lost his son, his 3 or 4 year old boy fell in the pool and drowned when they were on the other side of the house. And it was rock your world type thing. And it came back to us, and we were like, oh my golly. And so I texted him stuff from the Bible, and he's in heaven now. And it's all the cliche things I say, but I didn't know, These are, I believed it. Hope this helps you. And I love you, brother, and I hope this helps you. I can't imagine, but this is what the Bible says. And I believed it, but I don't know it. And here it comes up, then it's my turn. And he texted me back, and he's just like, brother, I don't know what to say, so I'm sending your text back to you.
Oh, really? Wow.
And he sent my text back to me, and I looked at this text. I'm like, man, I got to believe this now.
Yeah.
And is this really true? So all this stuff I sent him, I had to dive into.
Yeah.
It goes this, and now I know, because I can't tell you how I got to a point like we're okay.
Right. Yeah.
We are going to be okay. All these things of the world it's all lies. And I was like, we're okay. And we just got through this trial that here we are 2 years later. We just went through the trial, and we didn't want to go through it. We hoped they'd reach some kind of plea deal. But what God did in it, we were come together as a family, and CJ was sitting in the living room the other day, a few weeks ago, right before the trial. He goes, Dad, I just don't want to go. I don't want to go through that again. And I said, I know, but we just got to trust that God will do something in it. We got to go. We just got to go there and just pray through it, and just sounds crazy, but just pray and call on Jesus in this room to change the atmosphere, to whatever. I don't know, but we just got to see what he does there. And it was miraculous. I mean, I found myself in between recesses and stuff. I got a chance to hug this guy's family.
Yeah.
And love on this family that I didn't know, but they were just they were lost, and they were shame. They were so full of shame. It felt like our group and their group.
Yeah.
And they had a few of them. This kid that did it was raised in a horrible situation, born and abandoned, and raised by this person who gave him up, and raised by this person, and then just taken in by people that he thought was love. You'll accept me if I do these things that you guys do. And he didn't have a father, let alone know the father. So he didn't have the benefit of people in my kids had, of being pointed to God. And I got a chance to tell these people, don't carry it around. I got a chance to tell them that God loves them, Jesus loves them, and I don't hold anything against them. And I pray that their brother and their boyfriend and their son, the mother, that he would, he got convicted of the highest crimes. It all worked out in the world like it's supposed to. But my hope and prayer is for us is that he starts a ministry in prison or something that changes lives there, because only God can do that, and he will. But I got to see when you sit there, what I'd carried around for the last couple of years is until this trial was trying to imagine what really happened, what really went down.
Uh-huh.
And I had heard that he stepped in on some, when you should have and whatever. But my whole thoughts were like, man, Clay, why did you do that? Why did you? But there was a lot of stuff I couldn't watch and I couldn't hear, and I'd step out, but there was a lot of things, a lot of testimony from people talking about his character. Everything gets scrutinized, from his shoes to his socks, his shirt, everything he had on was scrutinized, and who he was that night was scrutinized. And I walked out of there after the end of the week. I'd never been more proud of a kid.
Yeah.
He was a follower. He was clean. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't any of that stuff. He was who he was, who I always knew he was. There was some evil in the room that just surrounded some kids, just literally being kids, just the sweetest kids you can imagine, just having fun. And these guys had him in the crosshairs and attacked one of his friends. And then when it got kind of out of control, Clay walked over, and it wasn't till one of his good friends, who's as sweet as all get out, wouldn't hurt a fly. The guy, his pride got hurt or something, and somehow, and he stabbed Clay's friend in the head, and only because it got blocked, it would have hit him in the chest. But that's when Clay stepped in and got in between them. And he did the same to him, but he stabbed him in the chest and then stabbed his friend. But he was he was a hero. He was everything that I don't think, and I look at it and we talked about it, I honestly don't think Clay could have or would have wanted to go out of this world any other way.
Wow.
He always wanted to be a SEAL. Yeah. That's just him. He was a fighter for the little guy. I promise you, I can't even tell this story. It's just miraculous. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
And then I would go back through his life and talk about his life and go, God was in every part of this. And you know what? He says, what the enemy meant for evil, he will turn into good for those that follow him. And he is redeeming this in spades. I cannot tell you how many people have been affected and impacted by this, let alone I wouldn't be here with you right now.
I was about to say, this story touched a friend who talked to my friend who talked to me. And this story is so powerful that many people are being heavily impacted by it. And I just want to go back to something that you said a moment ago. You were the kind of guy who believed in a God and intellectually understood who he is and what he's all about. But this unimaginable tragedy forced you guys to start to really decide, what am I resting on? And what I wrote down a moment ago when you were talking is there was a moment where you went from believing in God to believing on God. And I hope that the listener just didn't miss what you said. It was so powerful that it gave you peace in the midst of the most difficult tragedy a parent will ever experience. And it made such an impact that even in the courtroom, you, the father of a son that was slain, was able to go across the room and hug the family of the guy who did this and even hope the best for him. And you can't make that stuff up, man. There has to be something real there.
That's right. And we found it in there. And I remember it was CJ when he came home, he was there. And one of those first two nights we were standing around at night and he was just mad. I'd like to get with this guy. And I said, what are you going to do? Right. Yeah. What are you going to do? And he goes, oh, well, if I can get him in a room, and I go, no, you couldn't. You wouldn't. I go, now in a heated situation, you'd stand up. But if you had a chance to talk to a guy, even knowing what he did, standing there, you don't have it in you to just attack somebody. You wouldn't do that. And he goes, well, probably not, because unless it would. And I said, matter of fact, that was one of those things. I go, let's see what he says, the Lord says about it. And And it talking about, he says, vengeance is mine.
Right.
And, so we got to trust him. And I looked at that, and I thought I was preaching to him, but I literally was, for something lost in me, me reading, I was preaching to myself. I go, CJ, look, it's better to, love this, do good. It's like heaping coals on person when you do good to them for their evil. It's like they can't stand it. Like, why are you doing this?
Right.
Because I know this is not all there is.
Right.
I'm not living for this world. And then once we start making up our mind and realizing the we are here in eternity, I can't get that across. The hope is for heaven, to believe in it,
right.
and to trust, to accept him as your Savior, and just go, I'm just trusting you, God. I just know that I'm in eternity, and this is the hardest part of eternity.
Right.
This is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I don't care if you're Solomon, who had, or the King of all kings and had it all. And then you start reading that story from that perspective and go, I get you in Ecclesiastes, Solomon. I get you. He said, it's like chasing the wind. Right. I have it all, everything. But it's not doing it for me because you don't have that Prince of Peace in you. Yeah. And those type things. And I think that's when we start exploring again. I know that. I know it with everything in me. When it's just you can just tell people what you know. I'm not a Bible scholar. All I could tell you is what I know. Yeah. And I've gone from believing in him to believing him. And if he says that I should do this or go or whatever, and I feel like the Holy Spirit is telling me to go try it, man, and that's not fear-based, that I am covered and I'm not afraid anymore. Yeah. All the fear this is where the fear changed, because I realized this is what's supernaturally could not have happened. A guy that had his children as close as you could possibly hold them and say, no, God, I got them. But you can, and other things, finances and all that. So you can help me out there. You can do this. You can get my kids the gig if you could. Right. Make them a starter, get them drafted. That'd be great. But I want to, if it's going hard, I got it. Right after that, in the next 3 weeks, I was like, oh my goodness. He allowed this to happen to show me that I never have to worry about this one again. Yeah. Casey, I've got him. And I'm like, gosh, if man, that nobody loves him more than him. Right. And he's got my son. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. So what was I worrying about him all for? What's the worst that can happen in this world, that we go to heaven? Golly, it's not. So go live that way that like you're supposed to live. Do the right thing and go live that way, because we've got eternity, and the best part is coming. Our lives are like vapors. I don't care if it's 22 years or 85 years, like where my dad is now. Yeah. And battling some Alzheimer's, and we talk about it, I go, Dad, golly, it's going so fast. And it has for him. It's gone fast for me. And my son Clay, it went fast for him, but it's not all there is. Right. So
Casey, this is the perfect place to kind of land this plane and close this episode out. You got those guys or gals that are sitting there listening to your story, and they're saying, I could never go through what you went through and have this kind of peace. I could never give away my children when they're the most precious thing in the world to me, and I'm hanging on as tight as I can. I could never go across that courtroom and hug the family of the person that took my son's life. I could never do that. And they're struggling right now because they're holding on to what they've got in their life as tight as they can. Can you wrap us up today with just one piece of advice for that guy or that gal that's just holding on to life as tight as they can because they're afraid of what would happen if they let go?
Yeah, I think, of course, I thought that too. That would be, do anything you want in my life to me, man, person, whatever. Take me, but do not.
Yeah, don't touch my kids, right? Me too.
Or my wife, don't touch my family. That's it. Can have anything else. And that literally was the worst case scenario, that I literally was like, all the whys and whatever, that just didn't haunt me like the what now. Yeah. And all I knew was to find how the Lord addresses this. And I got more familiar in that relationship to know that he is a living God that comes And I did not know this as much as that when you start digesting this word and his promises and what he says, that even though it might sound crazy in the scripture, you think it's Shakespearean and all this stuff, but no, I found it come alive in me. And I know that his words literally became real. And I actually believed him and could trust him and found faith that I would give it to him and only in him, who he says, I live inside of you.
Yeah.
You just release it to me and trust me. And somehow I got to a point just going, I can't do it.
Right.
I can't do it, but Lord, I'm going to trust you. And that went from, okay, I'm trusting you. And it's like, okay. And you're trying. But then all of a sudden it becomes the more you seek, the more you rest in that trust and in those words. And I could just say, all I would say is that just when you think you can't, just practice trusting him.
Yeah.
Go back to it. Go back to the word of what he says about your situation and watch what he does with all the people in the Bible. I know those are mysterious old people from 2,000 years ago, but no. And I put the but in a different place now. Yeah, I know God says all these things, but my situation is this. It's totally flipped for me. You know, I know my situation is this, but God.
Right.
But God says this about it. And I've become one of those testimonial guys that I found this guy, wow, Job lost his kids. I don't know how he did that. Yeah, but that was way back in the Bible. Now I'm like, oh my golly.
It just got
I
real,
get it.
right? Yeah.
I get it, Job. I trust him. I get it. That's the only thing that can get me through.
Yeah.
And all I would say is that we're not living for this time. We're passing through.
Right.
Guys, just know that. Find some encouragement in knowing that whatever your situation is we're just passing through. It's momentary, it's temporary, and just do the best. Turn your eyes to God and just trust him in these times and go, know that he will and can provide, even if it strips you down to the brokenest part of your life. That's where I found him. And if this doesn't happen, I can't reach people and find and to spread encouragement, to the broken people. I wouldn't wish this on people, but at the same time, I do. We go somewhere in our broken spot,
right? Yeah. And
I pray that you guys turn to him, because all I can tell you is that he has gotten me to this place where if I did not know to go here, I promise you I would have.
Yeah.
I probably would have gone to the worst possible place.
Right.
I wouldn't even want to be here.
Yeah.
So,
I hope the person that's listening to you right now, if you're at that point where you're feeling like, I don't know how much longer I can hang in there, I can't do this anymore. You may be at a very, very amazing moment in your life where you're at the point where you're saying, okay, I can't do this anymore, but God, I'm ready to believe that you can come alongside me and you can help me through this. And Casey, your story speaks that as loudly as anything I've heard in a long time, man. Thank you for sharing this with us today.
Hey, can I say one quick thing? Is I would say together, let your, leave the gate open.
Yeah. Leave the gate open and
go
watch
find
and
those
see what
people
happens.
that when you think you want to be alone, when you're being attacked, in the brokenness of wherever you are, find those people that will lift you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find those people that'll encourage you, because you don't need to be alone.
That's right.
You don't need to be alone.
You need a wingman or a brother in arms that'll come alongside you just because the gate is open. I couldn't say it any better myself. Casey told you that comfortable doesn't always mean right. And if you're at this really comfortable, really sweet spot in life right now, but you have this burning desire to go do something different, maybe it's time to get uncomfortable and go chase that dream. You heard from Casey how he was able to face life's greatest challenge in the midst of all of this pain and find peace in the middle of it. And I hope if you're struggling right now, you'll find the same kind of peace that Casey found. Hey, I want to thank you for finding Unbeatable. Maybe this is your first time finding our podcast. If it is, we would love for you to follow us on social media. Just go ahead and search at Unbeatable Podcast on any of your favorite social media platforms. And if you found us and you really like what you're listening to, why don't you rate us and tell everybody else in the world what you think about this podcast? Just go ahead and give us a rating on your favorite podcast platform. And by the way, I want to give you a gift, totally free. I have this booklet, this PDF booklet called the Unbeatable Army Survival Guide, and it is free for you. All you got to do to get it is just simply go to unbeatablearmy.com. We're trying to raise up guys and gals who can face whatever life throws at them. Thank you for joining me for this episode, and I'll see you right back here next week on Unbeatable.